That's what's up. Hello. So it is late, and my voice, my throat is already scratchy. I think it wasn't even like this. I just sent Reem a voice note, kind of briefly talking on this latest synchronicity slash noticing in my life that I'm pulling for. And then my voice just got super like whatever. Almost kind of sort of. It's not as dry as it was the last time when I was doing the video. The one fire equals all that stuff. Um, but I've noticed. Let me see if I still have the picture. Where's my phone? Hey Siri. Never mind. Found you. Um, I noticed a gate of Sahakio when I was in probably was that a year ago or 2 years ago? I think it was two. No, it had to be last year. It had to be a year ago because I don't think I've known E for 2 years yet. No, so it had to be last year, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was last year. Um, there was a tree that had a cutout, and at work, I've had a happy place. I got four happy places, um, and I noticed one day. I noticed last week that the tree has a gate of Sahakio, and I was like, "Was that always there?" Hey, Janelle, how you doing? Welcome to a live. It's probably not going to be a long one. Hopefully, not going to be a long one because I'm trying to go to sleep tonight. But I guess I wanted to just pull a little bit just to see. Um, there we go. There we go. Columbus. Just to see if anything preliminarily pops up for this. Um, but yeah, I noticed that the tree had a gate of Sahakiel in it, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And I was gonna pull on it, but that didn't happen. Um, and then I was on break. I think it was yesterday. I was on break, and I got. Oh, I said I was gonna send this to Remy. I forgot. Oh, that's not Remy. That's Russ. Um, there was this video that popped up on my YouTube because I was just scrolling, and it was about what angels look like. Um, what? Oh, I didn't save it. I'll have to forward it. What angels would look like if they were to how they're described in the Bible. And then that was on my break. Then and I sent it to Rob. I was like, oof. And then on lunch, when I went outside for a little bit, Rob was live and he was in the Pisces part of the video that he just oh, I'll forward it. I should have forwarded it. And he said something about talking to angels. And that's why I was like, oof, talking to angels, oof. But I forgot about the gate. And then it was like today, because I think that was yesterday. Um, no problem. Um, I was like, oh, like angels, the gate of Sahakiel. And so I was gonna pull, but today, just like yesterday was not. I would have done it yesterday. Yesterday did not go according to plan at all. At all. Ended up stuck at Walmart for like an hour because the car wouldn't start, but it's fine. Hey, Kizzy Cat. How are you doing, Kirsty? Good morning. I'll be there in 3 months, less than three. May 27 is when I land, but I'll be going to Scotland for that first weekend. Um, and then I'll be in Darlington, and then I'll be in London for that second weekend. So this video popped up. There you go. Biblically accurate angels animation. And I was like, oof, why is it looking at me? So I shuffled this deck. Who's at the top? Duma, Angel of Dreams. I got this deck out. I'm hoping to make this short. And if it feels like an energy that's to be read on, then I'll read it more maybe tomorrow. If it's one of those like something to be mindful of as things unfold within the day or within the coming days. Eve, hello, how are you doing? Good evening. I did just say Duma, literally just said Duma. But I had to move this deck to get to my Angelarium year twos. And I was like, oh, it's the Mystical Dream Tarot. It's perfect that you're here. I was like, it's the Mystical Dream Tarot. If Duma, the Angel of Dreams, comes out, then I can use this deck to clarify. And Duma's at the top of the deck as I was shuffling it a little bit before. Um, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Which Duma is this? Because I think there's two Dumas in this deck. This one says, I looked into the sky and saw a truth written in quiet motion. The turning wheel rises, and as it falls, it shows us what we've seen. A vision from beyond, no different than a vision from within. And this vision from beyond, no different from a vision from within, is so interesting because I was just telling Remy in the voice note about how in that last video it was the EYE and the capital I, and how with the Ace of Cups that came out on the capital I side, and even with everything that was on the EYE side, it was like there's these a feeling, or there's something that we can kind of sort of tap into that is above or beyond or outside that we may not necessarily be able to as easily realize. And that it felt like there was some kind of tension or frustration or irritation at how it can be something that we can feel into, but maybe not necessarily experience. And it's all in that fire equals water equals air equals earth, or whatever I titled. I don't remember the order of elements, but it was all in that video. But the vision from beyond, no different than a vision from within, is interesting because of that. But hey, Holly, well, safe travels. How you doing? Who's at the bottom of the deck? Chazakiel, probably butchered that. The Angel of Mists. This place is somewhere in the middle. Where can I go if I am denied flight? How can I stay if I am denied presence? These questions fill the night air, crowding my wings and obscuring the light. But I know I am not the fog, but I also know that I am. So it's interesting that we have like what the Angel of Dreams and the Angel of Mists, because the energies can almost be sort of similar. It almost feels like it's just it's like an internal clarity type of thing, or it's a question of clarity. Um, like Duma, the Angel of Dreams, carries quite a bit more clarity than Chazakiel, the Angel of Mists. But I want to look before and after the Gate of Sahakiel, because that's, oh, I didn't find the picture. That's what I was doing. Let's see. That was Indiana. I see trees. I'm getting close. I know I took a picture of it. It was this one. Yep, here it is. It's huge. So yeah, this is like a proper gate of Sahakiel. That's what. So a tree with this kind of cutout in it. That's what I'm referring to as the gate of. And I'll show you the card when the card comes out. But I noticed that the tree that's been my happy place for a minute, it was too cold to go out there in the wintertime, so I didn't. But I was like, what? I did not know that that tree had a gate in it. The Angel of Mists is one of your favorites? What? I don't know how I feel about the Angel of Mists. This is interesting because behind Duma, so again, it's this energy right off the bat of they're both sort of non-materialized energies because it's dreams and it's the mist. And it was this energy of like, it feels like there's some kind of internal clarity, or whatever clarity that discerns or differentiates the dream from the mist. feels like it stems from the internal. And right after that, we have the two Azazels, angels of sacrifices, like back to back, both of them, which is interesting. But I'm not trying to make this super long, so I'm just going to keep going until I see the gate of Sahakiel. Oh my gosh. So we have the two Azazels, right? Guess what card is before the gate of Sahakiel facing Duma? On the Duma side of the gate of Sahakiel, if your guess was the other Duma card, then you're correct. Duma, Angel of Dreams, both on the same side of the gate of Sahakiel. So the gate is in between Turiel and Duma, interestingly enough. The Angel of Dreams and the Angel of the Mountain. And I think that Turiel is the Angel of the Mountain that holds stuff. That's not the proud Turiel. That's the Turiel that's learned of the greed and pride of humanity and stuff like that. Here you go. I'll hold it up the top. If it focuses and you can read them. There he goes. Because the other one didn't want to focus. So maybe I will pull. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. The other Duma, wait. So this Duma says, languishing aloft, the master of dreams rests in repose. Among the stars it makes its nest, swathed in silver and gold. An untold truth is to be spoken aloud, lost to the chiming of a bell. This is, for some reason, it makes me think of, I think it was yesterday. Yesterday, I had this dream. It was so weird. I was telling Remy about it. But I had this dream, and then at one point, I was asleep, and I heard my dad call my name twice. And so I woke up, and my dad's working third shift right now. So I'm like, oh, if he's like calling my name, then he must be home already. Like I must be late because I work first and he works thirds, and we work at the same place. Um, so I woke up and it was like 5:21 or something like that. I'm like, what time is it? And it was so weird. Like I heard him call my name twice. And usually, I think maybe not. It seems more often than not that like usually if I hear my name being called, it's like in my mom's voice. But that time it was in my dad's voice. I don't know. Makes me think of that. That was like yesterday. Pisces season, new moon in Pisces. I know a few Pisces born today. I was like, oh, the new moon is on your birthday. I worked with one of them. Didn't know she was a Pisces. I think I'm realizing like a lot more people are Pisces than I thought. An untold truth is to be spoken aloud, lost to the chiming of a bell. What's on the other side? So this Turiel, here I remain under a mountain made of many hands, all reaching and all taking. I press my body closer to that which I must keep. It is mine, and I will shield it from the misery of other hands. I can feel their gaze fall on it like an avalanche. Their greed feeds my convictions, so here I remain. Under a mountain made of many hands, all reaching and all taking. And this one is facing Turiel and Chazakiel are facing each other. And these two Dumas are kind of sort of more or less facing each other. This one's more facing forward, but you know, I guess the body is gestured or angled towards the other. This makes me think of the river Styx in Hercules for some reason. It makes me think of the river Styx, but it would be more Leaf, I think. The one of forgetfulness. This is not what I was expecting. Because there's something about Chazakiel in all of its wandering that it's like it positions Turiel, like Turiel is protecting something from Chazakiel. And then on the other side of the gate, and that is kind of sort of the darker side on the other side of the gate, it's the Dumas, double Duma. Like this is how they're all laid out. Well, maybe that's not a great way. Here we go. Let's try to do this. This is how they're all laid out. Okay, yeah, that's not great either. That's not the greatest. So I'll do it this way. Turiel's back is towards the gate. It's like Turiel is preventing Kazakiel from getting passage to and through the gate. Meanwhile, on the other side of the gate are the Sudumas again. And again, it makes me think of the capital I. It's the universal witness or that divine voice within that isn't connected to the source of its power. That came up in that I'm pretty sure that was the last ring I did. Oh snap. That I was like, that was the Duma Dolmen under a mountain of many hands. I've been thinking about dolmens lately because reasons. I was like, I sent so many laughing emojis. I was like, this is hilarious. Well, and then like the deeper voice came in with what was that spongy vegan cheese or something like that. I was like, what? This like I didn't expect. It was a journey. It was a journey. Eve reading for herself was one of the most pleasant journeys I've been on here recently. I almost want to read these two Azazels. The first Watcher of the North is it Azazel or Azazel? Um, Azazel taught mankind how to forge weapons and tutored them in respecting this power. Throughout those first years, he never wavered in his dedication to enriching the lives of mankind. In ways large and small, he sought to raise them up. Despite his efforts, excuse me, Azazel was the first to be blamed when the catastrophe began. With mankind's trust broken, every bit of goodwill he had built was traded for an equal amount of resentment. And then the other, tonight we pour the water from our bowls, the warmth from our hearts, and the breath from our flock. We bring an end to these necessities, not for their destruction, but in their honor. For in their absence, we can truly see their glory. Something about this one feels, that's the right one, right? Yeah. Something about this one feels a little distorted, though. There we go. Something about this one feels a little distorted. The second one. It's almost like this is the attitude, the Azazel attitude after the catastrophe. And again, that's very Turiel. Turiel before the catastrophe was like he would show off, and it was like it's almost as if the praise of those who um the praise of men sustained him almost as much as food and water or something like that. But after the catastrophe, after Armoros like brought down the veil, like oof, people they're wild. They wild down there, and they do things that So let's erect the veil. Let's go on the other side, keep them on that side, and make it a process. Let's create a journey. And again, Chazakiel is actually the angel that got stuck in between. It's the angel that couldn't choose a side, couldn't choose mankind or the angels. And so Chazakiel wanders the veil that separates them. Um, what is this? Yeah, I love that. I don't love that you lost 3 subscribers, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. This is great. This is amazing. What second one? Oh, the second Azazel. Yeah, something about that one. Because it's the angel of sacrifice, and it was worded in a way where it honors what is sacrificed, but it still feels very. It's almost like I read that there. I forget. It might have been associated with Kalima in some way. It might not have been. It's when I was getting into the Hindu pantheon a little bit, very, 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 very lightly into the Hindu pantheon, dipping my pinky in it, not even a toe. And there was something that came up somewhere about deities that people sacrifice things to that ask for no sacrifices, that require no sacrifice. But it's mankind that does those sacrificial things anyway. And again, with this sort of Turiel blocked energy, it's like it doesn't get like the sacrifice doesn't get you any closer to making it through the gate. As a post diagnosis reader, oh, I have no clue what that is. Much of what isn't said or told tells everything. It can. So I got these. Duma. I said if Duma comes out like this deck, and Duma came out twice. So I feel like, what's that? The card, the 7 of Cups, the one with the white obelisk and the 2 people on either side. Who are you? Oh, well. The whole deck is in reverse. It's that card that you don't like, Eve. It's the creepy lovers. With Sophia under that. And the moon under Sophia. I don't think I'm going to take it, though. Even though there is some. I guess I did say I don't want to go too deep into this. It feels like there is I know you were. It didn't come out, but it was like sticking out a little bit at the bottom of the deck. I was like, oh, what's that? And it was the creepy lovers. All right, see you later, Holly. I'm glad you made it safely. Um there's something a little bit, I don't know if it's at the surface of this or if it's kind of sort of below the surface a little bit with Chazakiel, Teriel, the Gate of Sahakiel, and then the 2 Dumas. It feels very, and it goes back to the 8 of Coins and the High Sage, and it goes back to that thread came out in the last reading as well. It's very sort of like intuitive guidance energy. But it's either quiet or it's subtle or it's not like easy to trust. And it feels like on the Duma side of this, like that's trusting the guidance, that's trusting the intuition, that's trusting discernment and moving forward with it. It feels like the Chazakiel is like, see, and it's in these two lines. Duma, a vision from beyond, no different than a vision from within. And then Chazakiel, it's like, I know I am not the fog, but I also know that I am. These questions fill the night air, crowding my wings and obscuring the light. Again, like there's the obstruction here that doesn't exist in this card. A truth written in quiet motion. Oh, maybe that's it there. It's the energy like of the truth written in quiet motion. It's the Duma that doesn't question it. It's the Chazakiel that does. And it's the Duma that because it doesn't question it, it actually finds its way moving through this gate of Sahakiel. It finds itself on the other side. But that's the thing about like navigating a veil or navigating mist, navigating fog, navigating something that's unknown in a space where communication itself gets distorted because of the nature of the space. It's almost like you won't, or like you wouldn't even realize that you've made it through something until you're already through it because the obstruction can be so thick. And because the abstraction is so thick, the voice that speaks is like it's that quiet. It's like the thicker the obstruction, the quieter the voice. But it feels like all can hear. It's just whether or not we sort of go with it. Ooh, the Ace of Cups at the bottom of the deck. The Ace of Cups at the bottom of the deck. The Ace of Cups was on the capital I side. And that was the side that it responded, it gave fire for fire. The Whispers of Lord Ganesha came out with determination, and that side had the Five of Wands. And again, it's like it feels like almost like going back to the things that aren't said. It's an energy of like it reads as needing to know how to read in between the lines, but it's felt because it was the Ace of Cups, and on the other side was the Two of Cups. There was the Ace of Cups, the Eight of Cups, the Ace of Pentacles, and then the Four of Cups on that side. And it feels like it isn't super easy to differentiate between a fire feeling and a water feeling. But the fire feeling, it feels like that's more about some kind of satisfaction or getting a desire fulfilled or something like that. It's like this is the direction that I feel I have to move in to accomplish this one thing. Whereas a cups feeling, it's more based on the internal state. And it's like, it feels like there is a certain integrity would be the easiest word to use. But it feels like it's almost like who's the person that I want to be type of energy. And that's interesting because it then that brings in a seven of cups. Is that hold up? Now I gotta see if that's the Seven of Cups. Because that's the card I was like, I feel like this card will come out. Now I'm going looking for it. It might not be the Seven of Cups. It might be a different seven. If I can find it. But it feels like the Seven of Cups because it's almost this energy. It's like if you knew that you could get something. It feels like the Five of Wands is about, it's almost like a Five of Swordsy energy where it's like it's about getting it at any cost. But the Two of Cups on the other side, or the more cupsy part of that energy, it's like it cares about the cost. It cares about how it affects others. It cares about the environment in a way that fire doesn't, because fire only seeks to sustain itself. Fire will consume entire forests with no care to anything or anybody, knowing that, if it's a natural fire, then the forest will take care of itself in some way. There are some areas where, like, bamboo or eucalyptus, I think bamboo and eucalyptus both grow quick after a fire or whatever. So the fire will be like, it doesn't matter if they get burned down, they'll grow back. But it's like the water would just, it's like it would have an element of not necessarily compassion, um, but it's just like an awareness outside of the self. And so the how matters. It's like, yeah, I could get this by doing this and doing that and doing this other thing, but like that, it wouldn't make me feel great if I did it that way. And it's not necessarily an energy that overly prioritizes others. And it's like, well, I don't want to inconvenience anybody and I don't want to take this opportunity from anybody else, so I'm going to let it pass. It's not that. But in that, this, it came up before at some point, I don't remember, but it's like the how matters. The way in which we go about doing things matters, because that energy, it's like the energy that we put into receiving something is, excuse me, is partially, at the very least, the energy that it's going to hold when we get it. And so if we compromise our integrity or ourselves to receive something, then it's like when we get it, it's not going to be as great. Kind of sort of like how karma comes back, or how we talk about karma as coming back in a way. It's like that energy doesn't just disappear or dissipate. Where is this? It is the Seven of Cups. Yep. And it feels like the Seven of Cups before, like, before this card in particular. Well, I had a feeling that that card, it was like talking to me. I was like, well, if that card comes out. But the reason why I say it is Seven of Cups now is just because of that. It's like there are many options. There are many things that we can choose. Some of them we want, some of them that we don't want. But it's like what's most important isn't the choice that we make. It's almost like how we make that choice. Um, and it's coming out between two majors. So the Seven of Cups on one side is Temperance, on the other side is the Wise Fox. And what's interesting about this energy again is the Wise Fox is 13, Temperance is 14. And in between 13 and 14, we have this wall. We have this wall that separates these two, almost like this gate of Sahakiel being protected on one side by Turiel, and then sort of flourishing or blossoming or flowing into the energy of Duma on the other side. Hey Zelda, how you doing? That wall reminds me of this obelisk. I kind of want to read these. I think I might have a while ago. Oh, my throat. Where my book at? Where's my book? I literally would have just had to. Oh, here it is. I think I've read The Wise Fox like once before, but I just want to see. I'm actually going to read both of these. I'm going to read a part of both of these because these entries are long. The Wise Fox is death. which is transformation. Wise fox dances with death, a chubby angelic figure. Oh, well. I missed the angel. I missed the angelic figure. I didn't even catch it. Oof. A chubby angelic figure rests upon his whiskers, the intuitive senses of Fox. Back to that intuition, right? Clever Fox knows the truth about death, bringing the message that life does not end, that death is a mere portal into the realm of eternal life. The angel of truth rises from Fox, from his intuitive knowing, pulling the whiskers of perception, attempting to get one's attention away from what appears as deep loss. Only by redirecting sight away from the sorrows of the movement, tragedies of physical death and loss, can we see beyond the illusion of death as an end to death, to the truth of death as a new beginning. The dance with death is one of joyful companionship, for death is merely the commencement of the eternal life that follows the physical incarnation. The dance, anchored upon Fox's sensory organ, connects the seeker to the truth of the frightening, sorrowful experience of loss. And then I'll read the first paragraph for Temperance. Temperance stands tending to the physical with the spade to loosen the hardened ground, which indicates a dry, dogmatic approach to life that impedes the fertility of growth. She seeks to awaken the mind to receive sound, balanced information, and urges the seeker to accept the challenge to accomplish what is necessary to move ahead. Temperance, temperance reminds one to be prepared, to gently nurture and fully examine all paths, all grounds before acting. She encourages moderation and restraint, along with careful consideration, and urges patience and the constant care of that which needs time to grow and to manifest. She invites the seeker to draw upon creativity to move ahead and reach full growth. My throat just be so dry. It be so dry. So again, in this card, in the Wise Fox, there was an energy of sort of like seeing beyond the illusion to know the truth of something. Wise Fox is coming out on the side of, I mean, if you had to guess, you'd probably be able to guess which side that's coming out on. Chazakiel and Turiel, to see beyond the mist. And then it's this question of, well, how do you see beyond the very thing that you are engulfed in or enveloped in? And then the answer is you don't have to see. You just got to listen. Temperance is also interesting because it brings in an element of almost apparent or perceived. It brings in an element of perceived futility with her having the spade on this hardened earth. It's like being told to dig because there's water here, which again goes back to the capital I side. And this is on the capital I side. Temperance in between the two Dumas. Um, but it's like being told to dig and that there's water here, but we only dig so much before we need for that to be sort of like validated, before we need for the thing to be manifested. But in the message of temperance, it was like, and it's interesting because I'll read that part again because this is, well, I guess determination didn't have a side, but it feels like it carries through that energy of determination that came out in the whispers of Lord Ganesha. Um, Here he is. I'll just read the full sentence. She encourages moderation and restraint, along with careful consideration, and urges patience and the constant care of that which needs time to grow and to manifest. Or was it before that? Here it is right here. She seeks to awaken the mind to receive sound, balanced information and urges the seeker to accept the challenge to accomplish what is necessary to move ahead. That part of like urging the seeker to accept the challenge to accomplish what needs to be accomplished to move ahead. That's that determination that's met with and by divine support, or that was met with divine support in the last one. Um, but the way this came out, it's interesting because this feels like active resistance, but at the same time, it's like energetic dynamics are also like sort of shifting and moving. So that's not entirely surprising. Actually, I think that came out maybe in that same video, maybe one before, where it was like if we're used to being able to flow in a certain direction with a certain amount of whatever in the past and that being met, and now with those same things, it's not as abundant or as fluid and flowy as it used to be. Maybe it's because the direction has shifted or changed in some way. And this temperance card did talk about rigid dogmatic beliefs. Where is it? uh the temperance stands tending the physical with the spade to loosen the heart and ground, which indicates dry dogmatic approach to life that impedes the fertility of growth. And again, it's interesting because there's so much growth around the person in temperance, but it's like the water has dried up, and because the water has dried up, it's almost like all of this will wither. There's also, it's a very high priestess. Maybe that's why Sophia. I don't even know Sophia like that. Um, Sophia is strength in this deck. It's the principle of fiery potential and inner perception, goddess of wisdom. Okay, so yeah, um, it is an almost high priestessy type of vibe because it's like it's very like being told what to do, but not being told how it'll play out or the timing or anything like that. I also love with that Seven of Cups energy. I love that Temperance mentioned careful consideration. Um, Temperance reminds one to be prepared to gently nurture, and fully examine all paths, all grounds before acting. And that reminds me of the Seven of Cups in the After Tarot. The Seven of Cups in the After Tarot that made the easy choice and decision and ended up choosing more than they thought they did. They chose the jewels, but they also got the snake. And we don't have power over how our choices and decisions play out. We don't have power over how we are received or our choices and decisions are received by the universe around us and by the people and structures and organizations in the universe. Like, that's not where the power of our choice lies. The power of our choice doesn't lie in dictating the outcome of those choices. Power of choice is you making the decision. And so it's not necessary, it does sort of fall under the umbrella of empowered decision making a little bit, but it feels like, again, it's like there's an energy, and I love that this is like earthy, but it hasn't necessarily broken ground yet. Because it's like there's an energy that knows, I don't even want to say the path, because it doesn't necessarily feel so singular in that way. Um, and I want to say it's a little bit more of that King of Swords side of the High Priestess rather than the Queen of Cups side of the High Priestess, or that King of Pentacles. It could be the King of Pentacles that's sort of taken that position now. Well, kind of, but not necessarily. But it's like there's an energy that knows how things are received. I like putting it that way. There's an energy that knows how things will be received by others and by the universe at large. And so while we do have a lot of choices and options with the 7 of cups, again, not every choice is necessarily going to give us the outcome that we want. And that's the thing about being blinded by desire. That's the 5 of wands. That's that fiery sort of fulfillment that has no consideration for anything outside of the self. It only seeks its own entertainment, fulfillment, sustainment, whatever, proliferation, whatever. There's no care for the environment. And because there's like a disregard for the environment, it feels like when we disregard the environment, we become gateways and portals of discord and disharmony because of the way that we go about things. It's like if we take all of the spiritual mumbo jumbo or whatever out of it, it's like if you're doing things in a crappy way to get what you want, people probably aren't going to like you. They're probably not going to want to work for you. They're not going to want to work with you. They're not going to want to associate with you. And if they do, they're probably going to be using you to get something themselves. And it's like that's just how it is. Like who wants to be used? Who wants to be treated as disposable or only having worth and value if it can bring some kind of benefit? And that's where I give Rob, because I know Rob from Rob Odinson. Um, he does that. He says it every now and then, especially in community posts, but probably in live videos. I feel like since I started working, I missed like most of Rob's videos. But that thing like where people shouldn't serve us when it comes to like releasing that which doesn't serve you, right? And so again, with that 7 of cups energy, it's like there's a way to go about getting what you want, but not but or while there's a way about getting what you want while also at the same time benefiting and proliferating all that is around you. And then that gets very into like Queen of Pentacles fill in energy, which is nice because it's not just about the self. And that's an energy that's open to more collaborative and more cooperative and energies of like increasing momentum and like building out her. It's like that's the energy that gets the divine support. And again, if you think about it just like people, it's like if you show yourself to be a team player and someone who's like friendly or not even necessarily friendly, but just like respectable, where like even if people don't necessarily like you or even if people don't necessarily want to be your friend, like if they respect you and they respect your work ethic and they know what you're about, then it's like yeah, they can still work with you. They would love to work with you. And that's like that's what that relationship would be. It would be a working relationship maybe, which I guess from a certain type of. All right, good night, Eve. No problem. Thank you for stopping by. I need to go to bed as well because I've been staying up entirely too late, and it's already 10:30. So this is ending. This is ending. Um, and I feel like to some people it can read as like using, but it's different. The energy is completely different because that one is cooperative and collaborative rather than competitive and stuff like that, right? And again, that kind of sort of breaks down into that 5 of wands competition versus the 2 of cups, mutual sort of like beneficial energy. And it's almost like, I mean, it's almost like Turiel said it himself, like there's no room for selfishness. Their greed feeds my conviction, so here I remain under a mountain made of many hands, all reaching and all taking. And the 6 of Pentacles did come out under that divine support card. And it's interesting because it is a little bit um It feels like not necessarily Gaian. Um, it feels, is this a Six of Pentacles? Is this a Six of Coins? Oh no, that's the Ace. The Ace of Pentacles is here. But I was like, is that the six? Somebody giving and sharing? I mean, like, hey, it's the Ace of Pentacles. It's limitless, boundless potential for an increase in like the physical experience, abundance, health, wealth, family, all things sort of lived. And it's giving. A lot of it's like we've just it's been so like you versus me against the world, hoarding, acquiring, amassing, controlling for a minute. Was that? No, that wasn't. It didn't come out anywhere. Maybe it did come out somewhere. It's like not knowing the cost of things. I don't think I said it that way though. It's like there are many ways to go about getting something, but each way costs something different. And that's also where our choice and our decision lies. Our choice and decision lies in, is this worth the cost? And sometimes we try to shortcut some costs, but end up paying much more in other ways. The Hangman. I kind of sort of, I guess maybe like isn't the right word, but that feels like something that it's like it's time for us, it's beyond time for us to start addressing those sort of like lines and ways of thinking. Um, and again, it doesn't feel like it has to be extremely like humanitarian or whatever. It doesn't feel like it has to be so giving that it will sacrifice all that it has. It's just maybe it's aware and it doesn't necessarily care. On the other side is the Seven of Swords. And it's funny that there's a big old Ace of Cups that's being blocked by that seventh or by the sword, almost like until the time comes for that person to step forward. The Hanged Man and the Seven Swords. It's like it's locked inside of this tunnel that it can't necessarily escape from yet until the time comes. But it's not time that's based on time, it's time that's based on action. So it's very almost chemical in that way, or metabolic. I like metabolic. It's almost very metabolic in that way. It's not like, oh, if I wait here, and I guess going back to that temperance card, it's not, oh, if I wait here for 10 years, then this is going to happen. It's a waiting that sort of triggered by something else. It's like first you make the choice and decision to do A, and then B happens as a correspondence to A with a lot of things, C, D, E, and F. And then you got like the C1, C2, like different things within that thing that happen. And then after all of those things happen, now you can make the second choice at G. But without choice A being made, B, C, D, E, and F don't trigger to even make G an option. And it's so interesting. It's almost like how synchronicity works, right? It's like when you start seeing stuff popping up all over the place. And it's like, wow, if I wouldn't have made this one choice or decision, like I wouldn't have met this person who has this connection to somebody else, or I wouldn't be at this point, at this place, in this point in time when this becomes an opportunity or when this becomes available, or I would have still been in this position when something bad happened or something that I'm glad I avoided happened. Or even if it's something that you go through that you wish you would have avoided, then it's like, because I went through that thing that I saw as the like as terrible, that I could have completely avoided if I would have made this other choice and decision, Like, because I went through that, now there's something that I know, there's something that I've learned, there's some way that I've grown or healed or been impacted and affected, either positively or negatively, that gets me to show up in this new situation. Now there's something that I know that I wouldn't have known had I not been in this situation. And it's all of these things that are beyond the human mind's ability to comprehend or calculate or understand. It's beyond a single soul to be able to factor, because we're talking about an entire universe. But there's an energy that knows and an energy that will communicate. And it's like, you're free to do with this information what you will. Just because your intuition says something, or just because the divine or whatever you believe in says something, doesn't mean you have to do it. A lot of times we don't. But also at the same time, if we don't do it, that doesn't necessarily mean that our path won't in some ways like loop back or like correct itself. It's very reading DNA translation or transcription, and how, if when you are copying a genetic sequence, if you make an error, there is another what enzyme, what is that like a helicase or something? There's another piece of equipment that comes in and like proofreads and like double checks to make sure everything is fine, and if it catches an error, then it can like fix it. And so because of that too, it sort of brings in an element of a timelessness, which again goes back to how sometimes a thing can be triggered by a choice, a decision, an action, rather than it being time. Sometimes it can purely be time. Sometimes it's like, this is a thing that does not exist yet, or there's a position that will be open after this person retires, right? And it's like, until that person retires, there's not a position. So in the meantime, there are other things for us to do. And it feels like we can run into issues with the Five of Wands and all, like the Queen of Swords when it originally came out. All the swords energy actually in that Seven of Swords in particular, in that last reading, where it's like we try to get ahead of it by thinking and like projecting out and all this other kind of stuff, rather than like being in the moment, being in the experience. Again, title card that came out whenever it came out, again with that High Priestess energy, it's like, live life, handle life, approach life as it comes. If something not great surfaces, like, handle it, deal with it if you can, right? And then it's like you'll find out that there's something that lies beyond that at some point in time. And I feel like it's interesting that my card for February was the High Priestess, because, and I talked about this recently ish, when the Seven of Pentacles, the Hangman and the Tower came out, at the top of whatever video that was. With the Seven of Pentacles, it had an energy of many different, seemingly disparate and separate things happening. But then you reach the point where you see how they all kind of sort of play out. And there's a few things, I guess. Well, that's one of the things that I've experienced, or I've learned to experience in living life in these past few years, that as long as I handle and address and face things as they come up to the best of my ability, and as I like sort of run and procrastinate. Running, I'm better at. Procrastinating, I'm still working through with some things. But even when I procrastinate, I still feel like and experience delicious timing and synchronicity. You know what I mean? Just being like more present and engaged with the experience, things just sort of work out in a way. And there are many times where I could have made choices and decisions to like walk away, and those choices would have been valid, extremely valid. And other doors and opportunities would have opened up, I'm sure. But in this, it's like there's a resolution beyond what I was capable of seeing. There's no way that I would have known that last week I would have walked into work in a meeting where they were discussing the plant being closed by the end of the year. So all of the boss troubles I was having, I think I kind of sort of feel myself shifting in another direction, and all of well, I don't want like my coworkers and my boss's boss to be in a rough spot if I just leave. And it's like, well, here you go. Opportunity. Everybody's going somewhere, doing something. And so now it's like with that being a thing in the future, I get to take advantage of now moments to expand in ways and to experience things and to get a taste of all of the things that I sort of wanted to before, but without that semi definite ending, it would have always been the case. Well, I'll have time. I'll have time. It works out in a way. I was like, okay, that's very high priest. And a lot of things sort of just like working out in ways. I still gotta decide some stuff, but to your teenager. Ooh. No problem, Janelle. I hope that it's helpful if that's the purpose in you sharing. Um, and I remember it was 2019, roughly September, October 2019 ish. 2019 summer was a whole experience. And it was funny because I did a meditation class and we went through the chakras. And at the third eye or the throat, at the throat, at one of the chakras, it's blocked by shame. And so I was making choices and decisions that I knew were not great. I was like, every time I make this choice and decision, I'm less fulfilled than before I made the choice and decision. Why am I doing this? And I wouldn't make the choice, and then time would pass, and I wouldn't make the choice, and then I wouldn't make the choice. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna shame myself. I'm not gonna blame myself. I'm not gonna feel guilty for making this choice again and again, knowing that it's gonna end up and be the way that it is. But I will have a conversation with myself. So I mean, number one, ask myself why I'm doing this. And number two, just be like, I don't know, it's like to reach a point where either it's like I'm okay with it or I'm not and I know I need to stop. But I don't have to punish myself or feel bad if I don't. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. Um there was just like I guess an allowance there that entered. And I forget where I was going with that or why I brought that up in particular. But in that, oh, because those choices and decisions that I kept making for who knows why ended up actually serving me in ways it like they ended up helping me get over like blockages and limitations that I had in ways that at the time and at the moment I didn't even have the full comprehension and understanding of. And so on one hand, while it was like, wow, like why do I keep making this choice? Like, ew, this does not feel great. But I keep eating this Taco Bell anyway, knowing that it's gonna put me on the toilet for the next 3 days. I'm exaggerating about the Taco Bell. It wasn't about Taco Bell, but my point stands. Later in life, and not even extremely later, that was a or that was a pentacle that was a part of a whole picture in a chapter of healing for me. In a way, at the time, that was very sort of indirect. Like it wasn't my intention to purposefully heal that. Obviously, well, not obviously. Um, but through a certain set of experiences and then experiences after that and then a few after that it's like oh wow like when did that happen and it's because of the mistake or whatever which is another sort of I guess thing that us allowing ourselves to be human opens us up to and maybe that's what this is about more than anything it's about an openness and a capacity to receive. Who are you? Asmodel, Angel of Taurus, uh, Angel of Aries, and the Angel of Taurus with Verkiel, Angel of Leo. Okay, Don't shoot yourself in the foot. What's it? It's like don't cut off your nose to spite your face or something like that. I don't know. Life can be real interesting, and even more so. Okay, I'm trying to get a final Angelarium. You're a 2 card. I feel like that wasn't necessarily the gate. Well, maybe it was of Sahakio. Maybe that's something that I just need to dive into. I feel like I honestly there's a certain level of almost neglect that I um inflict upon myself in a way because like I'm not like in my room like I used to be like meditating and like exploring or like I'd watch videos I'd pull for myself sometimes. Let's kind of pull more sort of like meditate or be open and observant to sort of like what was happening and going down. And I guess I still am in some ways, but I feel like it's like it happens in life. It happens in real time. So I don't need meditation and a bunch of other stuff the way that I used to. It's like there are more ways and avenues that I'm open to now because of how I walk my journey. And I believe that the intelligent universe and the divine that knows you, knows me, and knows where I am, where I've been, and where I'm going. And while, and maybe that goes back to whatever that was when that came out. It's like while there were certain things that used to work for me, while there were certain ways that I used to connect or whatever, or be receptive and open, I don't necessarily have to connect in those ways anymore. So I'm not neglecting myself. I just don't, or neglecting my sort of like spiritual journey or whatever. I just don't communicate in the same ways with the same frequency. Also, my interests have shifted. One of the things, and maybe it's a good, maybe it's good for new moon and Pisces. Um, the past few days, especially with getting the news that the plant was closing down, I think more so yesterday and today at work, my mind would be somewhere, and it's just like it's okay for dreams to change. It's like there are things that I used to dream about, and this is something else I was talking about with Remy yesterday, I think, or the day before. Might have been the day before. I don't remember. Recently, I've been noticing, and it's helpful to have a person who this can kind of sort of play out through in my life, but I've also been noticing in general. I feel like actually, and is that this year? The start of this year, um, in particular, start in January when I went back to work on the 4th. It's like I'm not who I was. I'm not who I used to be. My life isn't what it used to be. And it's okay for dreams to change. And it does leave me in that sort of like unknown, void ish position where it's like, well, if that's the case, anything can happen. And it's like, yeah, anything can happen. So just live your life and allow for the current and flow and direction to move you in whatever way you want to move. Um, but yeah, so I guess for a little context, I play Dungeons and Dragons with a buddy, and I was creating my character, and I was feeling kind of bummed out. And then I told him I was like feeling kind of sad looking through all the like different classes and subclasses and abilities and spells and weapons. I was like because like I can't play all of them. Like, I want to play multiple. Like, I would like all of the class, not all of them, but a lot of them are cool, and I would love to like play it. Like, whenever I play a video game that has different classes, I have one of each character, one of a lot of characters. There are some like tanks I don't really play, healers I don't really play, but I might play a. I'll play a heal before I play a tank, even though I'm absolute garbage at healing. I don't even pay attention. I barely pay attention to my own health. And I got to be responsible for managing the health of other people and myself. Sometimes when I'm like healing, I'll like let myself die. I'm like, oops, I forgot to heal myself while I was healing everybody else. And if you are a literal healer in your literal journey in your literal life, sometimes it'd be like that. You're so busy focused on healing and taking care of and nurturing everyone else that you just don't yourself. And then you're like, oh, well, if I go down in the game, I can't heal. So I guess I do have to heal myself to make sure that I'm alive to heal the rest of the group. Um, but anyway, I told him, I was like, I'm sad because I can't play all of these characters. And he was like, why not? He's like, I've run like 3 or 4 characters at once before. It gets a little confusing. Well, no, I don't actually, because I was like, don't you get confused? And he was like, no, not really. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. Like, if each character is different, and if the stories are different, if the campaign is different, if the trajectories are different, then it's like, yeah, maybe you'll be like, oh, I think I have this ability. And you're like, oh, no, that's on my other one. Maybe. But that by itself, it was a very verbal, non-verbal, like, your life is different. And I have access to just like be able to play Dungeons and Dragons a lot more than I used to. Something as simple as that. And like the whole thing about being nervous to go back to work because, and then like all of the old fear that very viscerally came up. What, November? What, it might have been like late November, early December. And it was like every week. And I was like, I was like, this is a level of fear that I have not experienced since I started my journey. I was like, do I really want to go back to this? I should just quit. I should just leave. And then I was like, yeah, quitting and leaving is a valid choice and a valid option. If I feel uncomfortable in a situation, I don't have to stay in it. But for me, it was like, but running is what I used to do. Quitting is what I used to do. And if I continue to run and quit every time something gets challenging or difficult or hard, then like that could be my life. It could be the case because I don't know how things are going to play out. It could be the case that I never have to worry about this thing again, ever. But it could also be the case that I do. And I run into something similar. And then it was also, and so I was like, kind of sort of going back and forth. But then after what, a week or 2 weeks, it was like, look at the things that you're already doing that you wouldn't have been capable of doing before. Like you're already living difference. And it's like, you've commented on this, you've mentioned it, you know this. Things have already been changed. And so, while yes, there is this looming thing on the horizon where next year, because again, this was like November, December, where like next year you're gonna have to step up, you're gonna have to do things in an environment that you're not used to, and it's like all of these old limitations of like, what if I can't see this, and what if I can't see that? It's like literally had cataracts removed, literally seeing things in ways I haven't seen some ever, and it's like I'm already doing a job that I wouldn't have been able to do. What's the difference? Um, but yeah, I guess just as an aside, lately within these last 2 days, it's like it's okay for a dream to change. That's why I was like new moon in Pisces. Okay, if Pisces is the dream and new moon is something new, that could be like the moon setting on one thing or waxing on one, no, waning on one thing and waxing on another. Um, and I'm not who I used to be. And not only am I not who I used to be, it's like I'm encountering people and energies that aren't those that I used to encounter. It's like I'm different, the environment is different, situations and circumstances have changed. So why continue to live by old fears? Why continue to live by old limitations? Why continue to live under this, like, oh, like I wish I could do this or I wish I could do that? And it's like, well, he's like, well, like now you can. I was like, oh. And I was telling Remy, going back to that, I was telling Remy, I think it was yesterday or the day before. I was like, there are these situations that I find myself in where I get nervous, but it's like an anxiety. It's not even anxiety. It's like I'm nervous by conditioning rather than actually being nervous. I was like, if I really think about it, I'm not nervous. I don't have any reason to be. Physically, I don't feel nervous, but I'm just used to being nervous in these situations. And there were other things. I know I did that a little bit with fear too, because whenever I would go visit my dad, he had this dog that I used to be scared of. But there came a point in time where I wasn't scared of the dog anymore. But since I was just used to being scared, and it was kind of sad because it was like towards the end of, unfortunately he passed, but towards the end of his life, like he was a house dog. When I was young, he was an outside dog exclusively. But when I went to go visit because I was scared, he had to go outside. But again, by that point, I wasn't even really afraid anymore. It was just like the pattern and the habit of being afraid. So eventually I did get over that. And like, it probably also helps that as he got older, he was like more chill. Um, but anyway, I was like, yeah, I was like nervous, but I feel like I don't have to be. And again, it's sort of, for me, it plays into that, like, you aren't who you used to be. Life isn't what it was. Situations and circumstances have quite literally changed in significant ways for you. And you know this. I was like, okay. So, oh, thank you, Janelle. And I'm going through, it's interesting because I'm going through my Saturn return right now, as you mentioned that. My Saturn return will be exact in April. So next month. Ooh. um, and so I guess just in general, and it's so interesting because again, at the top of the month, I had a conversation with the same friend um that got me really excited about like the stuff that I used to be excited about, like research, like working research and development, R&D, and like coding and all of this other stuff that I'm not doing now. And I was like, man, like I kind of want to like go do that. I kind of don't want to do the job that I'm doing anymore. And again, a few weeks later, little do I know, they were actually planning. By that point, they knew that the company was gonna, or that plant, that location would be closing. And now it's like, oh well, I can actually do that. Uh, and I want to go back and watch. Sometimes I'll do a reading, especially if it's a self read. I'm like, oh, I'll watch this later. I never watch it later. I wish I would have taken a picture of the cards as they came out. I thought that I used two cameras when I streamed that, so I could just fast forward through the video and see the cards and remember, but I can't because I didn't show them. But the first thing, Ariel, hey, what's up? How are you doing? Um, I remember the ninth degree of Saturn Paration. Um, it was the Seven of Swords clarified by the Knight of Swords. And within the context of that reading, it had its whole, like, there was a whole thing within the context of that. But as I've lived life, I found how that also plays out in other areas. And in a way, in one that I was kind of sort of already aware of, just being the situation with my boss in particular. and how that's putting me in a position to be able to manage compassion for self and compassion for others, to be able to manage understanding sort of like how someone could, how or why someone could like do the things they do, uh but also at the same time like not just resigning myself to accepting that kind of treatment. And so I guess there's balance in ways that I learned in that. um but it was like the Seven of Swords situation moves me into a Knight of Swords energy where I can communicate things with it, just like being as simple as communication. Also being like, sometimes harsh-ish communication. Sometimes, yeah, no, we're gonna have to stop this. This is getting severed. This is getting cut out. We're no longer doing this. And if you want to continue to do this, you will do this alone. I'm not participating in this. Oh, look at that Turiel Angel of the Mountain with Bezalel. See, I thought Chazakia was Bezalel. Bezalel, Angel of Shadow, used to come out all the time when I first got this deck. All the time, Bezalel would come out. And it was like, well, which one is the real angel? Is that Bezalel or is that Bezalel? Because you can't differentiate Bezalel from his shadow. They both look exactly the same. And then Bezalel stopped coming out. So I still need to get a final card. But that's where, and again, it's like, I don't have to sit and necessarily watch videos like I used to be. It's like almost 11. Yeah, it's 11:01, so I need to shut this down and go to sleep because I've already been staying up later and regretting it, softly regretting it in the morning. I haven't struggled too hard to get through the workday, but I'm like, I need to get some sleep. Uh, but I don't need to just like meditate or sit in meditation or like watch YouTube videos or whatever the way I used to. It's like I can communicate in ways like this now, like living life, going to work. So I'm dealing with crappy bosses, also dealing with couraging and braving and putting myself in sort of like social situations and um, getting more comfortable with being a little bit more extroverted, I guess. Um, and again, it's like everything is communicated in that way. Everything that I need, at least. I'm sure there are things that I can only get if I sit in meditation, but also at some times no problem. Thank you, Janelle. You're so sweet. I appreciate it. Um, but yeah, that's all I got. Happy New Moon in Pisces. Didn't. Well, I still need to get one of these. Was that Barbiel Angel of Scorpio? Can I get like one final year two angel, please? So I can go to bed. Who was that? It didn't come out. It's that same Turiel again. With Fanuel Angel, which Fanuel Angel of Truth is at the bottom of the deck, though? That was Barbiel Angel of Scorpio. Um. Oh, Fanuel Angel of Truth, not Penamue. Angel of Written Word. Like, hit the laptop. I need you to fall all the way out. Just one card, please. Those cards almost went in reverse. Those flipped over. I'll take these two that flipped over. And look at that. It's the angel. Keep moving. For the folks that's mad, stay mad. It's just like I honestly at work, I was like, I reached the point where I just can't care anymore. I'm over it. But today I was like, why do I feel bad for someone who like has it out for me for no reason? Why do I feel bad for like saying something or for going to HR or for reporting stuff that I'm experiencing because I don't want somebody else to get in trouble? I was like, wow. And she really like trying to come for me. Why? I was like, it's because you're kind and you're compassionate or whatever. Because for you it's not about whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, but still Come on, self. I'm gonna have a talk with my shadow, and I'm just gonna have to get over it. I'm kidding. So Ananiel, angel of storms, as the sun began to set, the boats turned to back towards the shore. All the while, Ananiel pleaded with them to stay. Ignoring him, the fishermen held to their course. Angered, the angel summoned the waves to do what his words could not. He wrenched their boats from their destination and pulled them until the land was lost to the horizon. In life, these first seafarers had been his acolytes. In death, they were their own men. And Barkiel, angel of Pisces. When harm comes to the people, the relationships, and the things in our lives, we have to take time to help repair them. It's not easy, but bringing those pieces back together is what we have to be to live a good life. And in those moments, we are close to Barkiel. Deep down, everyone has a nurturing aspect. Choosing to cultivate it helps bring us closer to our truer selves. Was that? Yeah. It's interesting that this Ananiel, it mentioned how the angel was angered because under this, I guess, watcher, I don't know who this is the angel. Yeah, I pulled it up. The angel of anger. And it's funny because Janelle, you said something earlier. And I mentioned that saying it's like cutting off your own nose to spite your face or something like that. And it feels like that's what this energy has done. And so it's almost like whatever. And then there's Asmodel, again, Angel of Taurus. Pisces and Taurus, that's my big three. To stay steady, enjoying a moment of reprise, is not selfish. A breath that takes us back to our center is essential. We must respect the anchor that holds our feet to the ground. When we do this, we wield a strength that can push back against the spin of the world. Asmodel is there, the embodiment of the focus and dedication we hold when we make a commitment. A moment of clarity grasped in a closed fist. That's the angel of Taurus under the angel of anger. I was doing something today. I feel like I was doing something today, and the word focus kept popping up. I feel like I was shuffling cards or something, but I don't have any cards that say focus. I don't have any. So, was that a dream? I feel like I didn't have a dream where I was shuffling cards, but I feel like I was like flipping through something or I was shuffling something and I kept seeing focus. But if I sit down and think about it, I'm like, that didn't happen. This is the first time I'm picking up a deck since the last time I picked up a deck. I'm pretty sure I didn't see focus anywhere today. But in reading that, I feel like I kept seeing it pop out repeatedly. This is Asmodel, by the way. Angel of Taurus. From the heavens to the ground. Um, and again, that kind of sort of just reminds me of the Seven of Swords that came out when I did that last self read. The Seven of Swords with the something else because there was the Watcher. It's like there are things again. I've said it before, and I don't know if I mean. I guess I kind of sort of don't care if people think it's like egoic or whatever. When I'm like, if you're competing with me, you're competing with yourself. If you're mad at me, you're probably mad at you because I'm not. It's like life is too short, and not only is life too short, I want too much to dedicate time or energy or effort to somebody who because they can't do for themselves or because they can't see it for themselves, they want to try to come for me or take from me or minimize me or make me small, put me in a box that I'm too big for just to make themselves comfortable. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. I am proudly egoic. I proudly have a shadow. I am proudly human. I am proud to be a human being and to have choices to make and decisions to make and to have not multiplicity or duplicity, to have a multifacetedness. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. That's where I am in my journey. That's where I am in my life. That is my journey. That is my life because it's me. And I don't feel like I have to sacrifice any part of me. And of course, that's something that I had to. That's a place and position I had to work to get to because there were parts of me I was like, ooh, like that part's a little harsh. That part's a little scary. It can be, but then at the same time, it's like I'm not just out here being mean and nasty and malicious to people. So you know what I mean? That makes sense. I used to say I'm the nicest person that people deserve to know. But anyway, that's what I got. I guess within the context of the things that have been coming out recently, that fits as far as the gate of Sahakio. Again, I think it's just sort of an energy of all that becomes possible when we reach certain spaces and states. And maybe more so than like reaching a space or state, it's about leaving another. It's like not having certain patterns or behaviors that stand in the way of us making choices and decisions to actually move our lives forward or to be more happy and to be more fulfilled or to be less dependent on this or that or whatever. Um, and that's something that for me it comes up because I'm me, probably because Patrick is Patrick, where I'm like, well, what does it mean for me slash us as people to learn this lesson? Like, how does learning something like that play out for us? And then I'm like, oh, well, it might play out like, this thing that I've gone through that wasn't necessarily great, but I had to learn somehow. uh, I forget where I was going with that, by the way. Completely lost that train of thought. I'm exhausted, so I'm just gonna go. I've talked enough. It's been an hour and a half. This was supposed to be a half-hour video. Well, it's me. I can do a 20-minute video. I can do a 10-minute video. There was that one like half-hour video that it was a half-hour video because I literally stopped it. Not necessarily because it was over, but everything that needed to be said had been said. So, all rambling aside, I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you are acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. And that I hope that if it would be beneficial for you to see something framed in a certain way or to have a certain person say something to trigger a sort of like recollection or recognition, um, I hope you get it. I also hope that, you find it within yourself to act in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality in a way that is like energetically sustainable. So sometimes to get something energetically sustainable, we kind of got to make the harder choice or the more difficult choice. We might have to put a little more time, energy, effort, nurturing into something to get it to last and not just get it and then it's gone within a day, a week, a month, whatever, right? To make it sustainable, to make it a more permanent fixture in our lives. Um, and it feels almost a little rent to own in that way. It feels rent to own because it's like it feels fluid until it's fixed. But it feels like the benefit of that is that when it's something that's like rent to own or when it's fluid into fixed, it allows us time to grow. And as we have that time to grow, it's almost like there's a higher chance that the thing will be able to accompany us in whatever new position, place we find ourselves in, and as we continue to grow. Right. So, thank you, everyone who came in, who spoke, who lurked. I encourage lurking. You ain't got to speak if you don't want to speak. You're comfortable here, unless you like. I feel like even if like you are weird, like a weird lurker, I probably still wouldn't care. But then I'd just be like, why? Life is precious. Time is limited. Spend it on something that you want to spend it on. I don't know. I'm just like not that type of person, I guess. I don't know. It's like I got better things to not do. And there are better things that I should be doing. Refer to the thing I said about procrastination earlier in this video, because I've been saying it on this channel about myself. I was like, I need to stop procrastinating. I need to stop procrastinating because I know when this thing comes, it's going to be bigger. It's going to be more because I'm just letting it pile up. It's just festering. And guess what? The time to collect had come. And it was so much. Luckily, I had the resources at my disposal because at the same time I was procrastinating on the thing I knew I should be doing, I was also preparing myself for the inevitable time. And it happened to work out where I had enough, but it was like it was everything. They took everything from me. They took every last dime. Not every last dime. And I get paid on Friday. So that's another thing that's changed about the experience. It's like, yeah, but life moves on. It's a lot more, the impact is less when the impermanence. And what's that one word? Mayflies, not transient, ephemerality, ephemeral. It's, I don't know, but I feel like that's also human. Well, it depends. It depends on a lot of stuff. Because sometimes one more day, one more second, one more minute, one more hour is too much. So yeah, okay. I've officially rambled like an extra 10 minutes. This is me.